What'd you say? Okay, welcome everybody out there or out there and in here. It's great to be back, another Monday night. So as we've been talking about, the first thing we do is we're going to set our motivation. And I want to talk a little bit about, anybody here for the first time? Here? Okay, well, welcome. It's fine, it's fine. We'll just catch you up as we go along. And feel free to stay after and ask questions. Anybody there on first time?
Anyone online first time? I think everyone looks familiar to me, yeah.
It's a pretty good module to come in different places because we do a lot of reviews. So we've been talking about, before you start this practice or start a meditation or start your day, it's really good to spend some time setting your motivation because as in any activity that you want to have a goal, having an intention, like even if you're going to go to the gym, usually go with some kind of goal. So same with this. And last week I showed a video about these men in prison meditating, and it was, I don't know if you got to see it later or the full movie. I was just showing the trailers and a summary of it. It's quite impressive. They go through 10 days of meditation practice for like 10 hours a day, pretty much. I mean, it's broken up, but it's quite something. And to me, when I'm setting my intention, prisoners help. The whole idea of prison helps because I did do some work in a prison. And, prisoners don't have to generate their wish to get out. They don't have to spend time in the morning going, now why do I want to get out? I mean, maybe a few do, but none of the ones that I knew ever did. It's just with them all the time because they know they're in prison and there's all these limitations, even what they're wearing. The women's prison I worked in, if you're wearing blue, you're a felon. If you're wearing green, you're a misdemeanor or you're on honor grade and you're about to go to minimum security. If you're wearing blue, you're on reception or you have mental health problems. If you're wearing yellow, you're on death row. Yeah. There's supposedly some reason long ago, this is the rumor running around prison, that's so that they know who to shoot if you jump over the fence. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I told them once, because I used to teach writing there, and I told them, I had a dream that I was a prisoner with you all. And I looked down and I was wearing a blue shirt, and they said, at least it wasn't yellow, So we all are, though, wearing blue shirts, or whatever, yellow. We're all actually wearing yellow shirts in samsara. And so we talk a lot about generating a wish to liberate ourselves from this cycle of existence. So Buddhism talks a lot about reincarnation and this cycle of existence and that there is a way out, there is an escape. And sometimes what happens is we forget we're in prison because it can be so pretty, it's so attractive. It's like if you got a really great prison cell, and you just kind of kept redecorating it and forgetting that there's a whole other life outside of the prison that you could actually get to. So I try to recall this as I set my motivation. So first I have to generate the wish myself to get out, that there is something beyond this cyclic existence, beyond this prison, no matter what great prison I'm in, there is a way out. There's something much different than this. There's freedom from this. And I would like to be able to get there. And there's actually people who've gotten out and have left instructions, for how to get out. Now, if I can get out, I would also really like, because I have all these friends now in prison, and I'd really like for them to get out too. So maybe if I get out, I can help them all escape. I can hold the door open and let them escape with me. So that's a way to start generating this motivation that for your future escape, and then bringing it down to the micro, which is that today we're practicing meditation. And why are we practicing meditation? Well, there can be lots of micro reasons. Again, I want to learn how to relax. I want to learn how to be a calmer person, or I'm just here for information. I'm curious. And then if we amp that up a little bit, we talked a lot last week about this ability to escape this prison is based on our wisdom, our mind, our compassion. That in order to learn more and to expand our awareness and our realizations, we need to have this powerful tool kind of in shape for it. And that's what meditation does, is it prepares the ground for that goal that we have, because that's what we're going to be using, is our mind. And that as we achieve our goals, again, of having a calmer mind, being able to understand more and more as we meditate through sharpening our mind and clearing our mind, will also be affecting all the people around us, people we like, don't like, people we know, don't know, in big and small ways we can't even imagine. So in that way, we increase our motivation from starting with ourselves and expanding outward. And I say all that because now Linda's going to lead us through refuge and bodhicitta. Now, you don't have to be Buddhist to just meditate on this prayer. And as she uses the words of Buddha, you can think of somebody who has completely escaped this prison. Okay.
So if you're here in the Kadampa, you can turn to page 34 in the Gold Prayer Book. It's taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings.
Okay, last week we did the 9-round breathing meditation, which we're going to move into again today. But first we're just going to, again, part of this tool that we're using, it's located in this physical form. So it takes some time to stretch out any kinks, tighten something and then relax it, whatever you need to do. And then I'm going to lead us through a brief relaxation meditation and then walk you through the 9-round breathing. And the 9-round breathing meditation can be done in different ways, visualizing different things. I'm going to focus it kind of simplistically so that you can get used to what we're doing. All right. So check your posture. You can make sure that if you're sitting on the floor, your back is everywhere you are, trying to make sure your back is aligned. And sometimes, even if you're in a chair, sitting on the edge of a cushion on the chair, and certainly on the floor, elevates your hips higher than your knees, and that helps encourage your spine into a relaxed but straight position. Okay, and then you can have your hands either in the meditation mudra of your right hand resting in your left hand and the thumbs gently touching, and then this oval that you've created just right around your navel, a little below your navel, which is the center of your body, and your elbows out away from your chest. If it's easier, you can have your hands, on your knees, again, kind of creating a triangle and out away from your chest so that you can have deep breaths. And then check your spine, try to have the vertebrae resting on top of each other so you're not holding on too tight in any position. Tuck your chin a little bit so that your spine is straight all the way up to the top. Gently relax your jaw. You can put your tongue at the back of your teeth to encourage that relaxation. And your eyes can either be closed or gently open if you need some light to keep you alert. And now we're going to just imagine like a warm, wonderful feeling starting at the top of your head, just like when you get into a warm shower. You can feel your scalp beginning to just relax. Feel that pouring down around the sides of your head, your forehead, which has been holding a lot of tension throughout the day, just relaxes. Your eyes, your eyebrows, all around your eyes, all those tiny muscles that have helped you all day look and watch things, all that relaxes. Your cheeks, the sides of your jaw, around your ears, the back of your head, down around your mouth, your lips, your chin. Just feel this warm energy surrounding your throat, your vocal cords, the back of your neck. All of those muscles holding your head up all day. Relax. Your shoulders, the top of your shoulders, just washes down you. All the tension being released. The front of your chest, the back of your shoulders, your shoulder blades. Then down your arms, your biceps, your elbows, your forearms, all that muscles around your wrists, your palms, your fingers. Just totally melt with luxurious relaxation. Then down through your abdomen, from your chest on down, your mid-back, your lower back, your inner organs, all the muscles in your abdomen and pelvis that have been holding things together. And then your buttocks and thighs, muscles around your knees, your calves, your shins, all the muscles around your ankles, your feet, the balls of your feet, your toes. Everything now is bathed in this warm bath of relaxation. Now you're going to take your right hand, any finger, usually I use my ring finger, and close your left nostril and inhale through your right. And imagine you're inhaling pure Buddha enlightened energy. And then when you exhale, you bring that finger to the right nostril and close it and exhale through the left. And you do this 3 times. When you exhale, imagine like all this polluted smoke from a chimney just going out of you to the far reaches of the universe, and it's gone. So then do another one like that, inhaling all this pure, clean, crystalline Buddha nature energy. Let it fill every pore, every cell, and then exhale everything that needs to be exhaled: tension, worry, fatigue, sadness, pain, whatever. Let it go. And then last time on this side, inhale through your right nostril and exhale through your left, using your imagination to create this visualization. And now the opposite. Breathe in through your left nostril, again, pure, crystalline Buddha nature. Let it fill every part of you, and then exhale all the tension, worry, negativities out through your right nostril. In through the left, out through the right. Anything you regret, anything you're sad about, worried about. And again through the left, and out through the right. And now inhale through both nostrils, the same visualization. And exhale anything that's bothering you: anger, sadness, fear, excitement, anything that's getting in the way. Let it go. And then inhale in this pure freedom, this pure liberation. And exhale through both nostrils. And then one more time. And now repeat this. That was 1 round, so repeat 2 more rounds 3 inhalation, exhalation on each side. Okay, you inhale through your right nostril and exhale through your left, and then you're going to reverse it after 2 more of these. When you finish 3 rounds, then just keep meditating on your breath. Okay, and then as you're ready, just open your eyes, come back to the class. This is a really great meditation to do if you're struggling with alertness, to start off this way, or if you're struggling during the meditation to stop and do the 9-round breathing. It said it's not really good to do more than those 9 rounds because you're affecting winds and channels in your body, so it's best to just do them in 9 rounds. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about setting up a practice to do this. How many people have been trying to do that or have had, let's start with that. How many people have tried to do that right now? Yeah? Okay. And yes, okay. When I turn this way, I'm looking at you all actually, but any success, struggles, challenges? Because we're going to talk a little bit about all of that. And people can type in the chat and Linda will. Okay.
Anyone in here?
Stephen, did you want something?
Yeah.
So I've been, I guess I would say I started trying to meditate regularly 10 years ago. So I guess I feel like I've been doing this for 10 years. And, initially I started trying to do 30 minutes at a time. And then, for many years, I would have kind of the typical pattern of, going for a while and doing it, as often as I was trying to, and then fall off, and things would get in the way. And so it was, that was the initial challenge, is just to try to, create the routine.
Yeah.
And then over the past, I would say, maybe 5 years, I decreased it to 20 minutes. And then now, over the past few months, I've decreased it to 10 minutes just at a time. And I do it in the mornings now. And I started waking up earlier and trying to do it, it's just as far as like trying to figure out my routine for the day.
Yeah.
And I've been more successful, actually. So that's one thing I've learned over time is, and this whole time I've just been sticking with the meditation on the breath, and trying to make progress just on that before like trying to do a bunch of different types of meditation to just strengthen my concentration, is what I'm trying to do. And so decreasing down to 10 minutes has actually been great.
Because it's been more doable?
It's more doable, and like you can make smaller steps, and kind of like you talked about in the first class, where you get more of the times where when you leave the cushion, it's kind of like on a good note,
Right. Yeah.
And so I've learned that now when you have like this big thing in front of you, is to maybe start really small.
Yeah,
and
that's
like
great
and
advice.
then make more progress. And
Right.
so, and the other thing I just wanted to say is, I learned about the different stages of meditation, and I'm still on stage 1, after 10 years. But so it kind of, depending on how you look at it, that might be very discouraging, but I'm not discouraged at all. Even in this stage 1, I've still made progress, just even in stage 1. And so, just for anybody who might be listening that, is discouraged by this, is just to keep going. And like, I'm very encouraged to keep going and not give up on this. So
I think, it's a great advice, because if you start with 10 minutes and you have more time that day and things are going well, you can always do more. And if you're saying, I'm going to do 30 minutes a day, and you can't, it just psychologically kind of wears you down if you haven't met that goal. So starting with something reasonable like that. And then you said something else about, about the stages. So are you talking about the stages of single-pointed meditation? Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on. So for people who are new, there's generally 2 kinds of meditation. We just did kind of a focus meditation, putting all of your awareness on your breath, or you can do it on an object, but it's to strengthen that ability to focus and concentrate. And the other type is analytical or visualizations, where you're putting all of that concentration on something, a topic. And we did some last week, and we're going to do a little bit more this week. But if you haven't sharpened that or strengthened that muscle of concentration, then it's going to be hard to make progress with analytical meditation. All right, anybody else? Anybody written anything on chat that I haven't seen? Okay. So anything that anybody has tried that just did not work? So we heard some things that did and then didn't and then did work. Anything that you've tried over the years, because I want to talk a little bit about obstacles to setting up some kind of practice. Yeah. What's that? Oh, the phone? Yeah.
The phone is forever an obstacle, so it has to be like put outside of the room.
Yeah.
That's not happening right now. But yeah, I think that's the internet and screens is always like the biggest obstacle, where it's like, I could definitely be doing something more productive right now, which is meditating, but We
Like
also
what?
just scroll and read about the news, you know?
Okay, is that
So-
productive? That's the thing.
Right, it's not.
We have to
It's
define
not.
productive. But that's a good thing to start with, like, what's productive? It's very addictive and very, I feel like since COVID, I didn't, something shook inside of me and it was hard to concentrate. It was easier, I wanted distraction, you know? But since then, I've learned about it. I learned that wasn't really that helpful. So it's really helpful to know for ourselves, what obstacles do I personally have this year, this day, this, whatever. What the obstacles are always going to be shifting. But in terms of setting up a practice, so they say, starting in the morning might be the best because you'll be, more alert. But for some people, it might be midday. I have a lunch break, I can sit in my car and meditate. That's the best I can do because I've got 3 kids running around the house. I'm not personally, but other people, have a very hard time finding a quiet place in the house. But one thing I did learn during COVID is my car is everything. My car is my little cafe, it's all kinds of things, right? So you have to find what in your life and schedule is the place that you can carve out that uninterrupted time. And I'd like to, people to share so you can hear what's worked for other people. Often having, creating a ritual around it. It's going to help you. So if you create whatever, making sure your area is clean. If you have an altar, then that, there's a whole ritual of setting up an altar. And the whole point of the altar is to inspire you. This is your future self. And I remember asking Geshe that when I was first studying, Buddhism, like we're talking about the altar and and taking refuge and prostration, and then all of a sudden it hit me like, oh, that's my future self. And he goes, yeah, I guess you could say that. That's what you're aspiring to. You're not, it doesn't do any good if it's not where you're going. Right? It's only going to help you if that's where you're going. So having having a setting that inspires and helps you in your practice. I remember watching this movie because for a while, in the beginning, I questioned everything. I drove Geshe nuts because I had like a gazillion questions and I had a lot of doubt. But the good thing is, as his teacher told him when he was asking his teacher about all my questions, his teacher said, more questions, more wisdom. And so once I felt certain about something, it was unshakable. But I wasn't going to be doing something just because everybody said to do it. That was just never going to work for me. So I was really questioning, an altar and certain things. And then I watched this movie. It was all about Motown and how before Motown formed as Motown, there were a bunch of musicians in this basement who got together, little Stevie Wonder, a little teenager, all these people were in this basement jamming and practicing and really making some amazing music. And then years later, some people went back to that basement just to visit it because that's where it all started. And they said the energy there was just electric. I didn't doubt that. Why am I doubting an altar? It's the same thing. It's like what you put into it, then it just kind of holds that energy and that vibe. You have that in your house. So the same thing then is true, the kind of energy and vibe and what encouragement that you want to set up around wherever you meditate, if possible. This is why they even sell those little portable altars in case you're traveling a lot or you don't have the room and you want to do somewhere else. So whatever it takes to, encourage you and ground you. There's other obstacles. And so if you watch the Dhamma Brothers, and there's another one set in India, I can't remember what it's called now, but this woman was the warden of the largest prison in India, and she brought in meditation for 10 days. And it was just amazing to watch those. And what the meditators were saying afterwards is because they had such traumatic lives that during the meditation, all of this stuff would come up, right? All of this regret or anger, or revenge or sadness would come up. And that can happen in meditation. And so there's a bunch of, there's a kind of a list of standard obstacles and antidotes that I just want to go through. So one obstacle is excitement. So you sit down to meditate and your mind is just going to oh, I can't wait to look at the internet because I know there's this really great something or other, or somebody wrote me this email, I could feel it, I got a little message on my watch that I forgot to take off, you know? So there's some excitement. Or I can't wait till this is over because blah, blah, blah. The antidote to that is to draw your mind inwards. So your mind right now is going outwards. And one way to also get a handle on that is remembering impermanence. So we did that whole meditation last week on impermanence. I think that helps us become more aware of our time and how we're in this river of time that's moving pretty quickly. I think there's that. But also even your excited state is impermanent. And so maybe you can kind of release it a little bit. That's just my thought on why that's an antidote. Also, in that same category is regret, remembering something you don't feel good about. That comes up a lot when people are doing meditation for longer than a couple minutes. You know, when you're doing a longer day of meditation, your mind will start pulling you in all these different directions. So again, meditating on impermanence for a minute is an antidote to that. Then dullness and sleepiness. That's a big one for me, or it used to be a huge one for me. So open your eyes, sit up straight, stand up if you need to, wash your face with some water, concentrate on light, like when you're meditating, imagine light, or sometimes I will sit facing a window where there's a lot of light coming in, and that helps with the dullness. Think about your precious human life, something that inspires you, that kind of knocks you out of the dullness. I'll tell you a story, like I was meditating at Geshe-la's monastery with him in the room, and so it was very nerve-wracking because I was like, I'm gonna fall asleep. And it was like we were doing like a 10-day retreat. And mostly I didn't feel too tired, but this day I was really struggling. It was right before lunch. And I was really, really struggling with staying awake. And then I decided, because this also helps, is to watch, like to have, you know, we talked before about the mind can watch the mind. So then I decided to put all my concentration on my sleepiness. And that changed everything. I didn't think it would. I was just desperate to try anything. So I was like, okay, let me watch my sleepiness. And then it was like this incredibly blissful state took over. And I did not want that to end. And that became a problem, because then I wanted to return to this hugely blissful place. But it was just like everything became golden, and it just was this most incredible feeling. And I remember then we broke for lunch, and Geshe-la said to me, because my head was down, you know, and he said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm great." But so with sleepiness or lots of different things that are going on in our mind, we can take the other mind, try to watch it and see what happens. I know I do that when I have a song stuck in my head. Instead of trying to make that go away, make it go away, make it go away, I'm like, I'm gonna watch that song. And it gets kind of bored with me watching it, so. Ill will. Sometimes what arises is anger. You know, somebody did us wrong, and those memories come back to us. I think meditating on impermanence is good for all of these things, but one of the antidotes to that is to then meditate on loving kindness. Maybe not towards that person, but just that you have loving kindness in your heart, and just start to focus on that, so that this other feeling that's trying to grab your attention doesn't become so big. You can, you know, if you can. It's also like relaxing around whatever it is. I used to have incredible pain with my period each month. I mean, like labor-like pain. And I was trying to do I'd read about this meditation of softening around the pain and imagining a lotus on the ocean. And I would try to do it and it didn't work. I'd get so upset, I'd throw the book across the room. I was like, it's not working. And then one day I was in a cab trying to get back to my apartment in Brooklyn. And I just, there was nothing else to do. I didn't want to throw up in this guy's cab, you know. And so I just started like saying to myself, soften around the pain, soften around the pain. And I just kept visualizing this lotus opening. That was the pain, and just sitting on an ocean. And suddenly, the pain just became a little more bearable. It didn't go away, but something did soften around the pain. So likewise, that same meditation, this teacher was saying that same meditation can be used around anything that's painful. So it's a painful memory. Anger is painful. Instead of trying to make it go away, we just soften around it and let it just sit there. And it'll have way less power. Just try to create some space around it rather than it becomes so big. And I know this is all hard. I'm telling you, I'm struggling with it every morning. But that really helps, is just to think of all this space around this feeling. Doubt. Oh, I'm sorry. Next, before that is attachment to sense objects. So, say I'm really hungry, or can't wait to eat that, or we're just kind of exaggerating some kind of pleasurable thing that we don't have at the moment, And that can get in our way. And then the antidote to that is contemplating the disadvantages of that sense object and the limited satisfaction that it can bring you. And then the fifth one is doubt. So, why am I doing this? Or I'm not getting anywhere. That might be one. Or this is, I think, why I had to ask all these questions and get answers, because otherwise my doubt would be just enormous and I couldn't do any practice. So, doubting. And it says, for example, wondering if there are past and future lives or not. Are there enlightened beings or not? Does karma exist or not? That this could kind of come up in your mind as you're meditating. And then they said one of the antidotes to that is contemplating the way the self exists, that we are a collection of aggregates, and that there is, basically meditating on cause and effect. And another way of doing that more easily is that, I always like the image that we are a river of collections of things, our minds, our thoughts, our memories, our bodies, constantly in process. It's constantly shifting and changing. So again, I think a lot of that's almost like softening around the doubt. Okay, any questions on that, or comments, or other obstacles that you'd like to talk about? Yeah. And
I like that last one. Thank you so much for those.
sure.
That last one of softening around the doubt. So I hear a lot from the people that I work with on, I don't know if this is working. I don't know why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I don't have time for this. And it does have a flavor of doubt, even the I don't have time for this. So softening around the edges of the doubt and specifically thinking about the cause and effect. I'm not sure I understand completely how that connects, but I'd love to hear a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe with a specific example. Like an example would be like, for instance, there's a lot of people that I work with and they're like, I don't think this is working. This has never worked for me.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's almost like, because it's never worked before, you know what I mean? Like they're getting in their own way of it.
Right.
And so I just wondered, like,
Yeah.
what you would suggest.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a great question. And I'd love to hear anybody else's ideas about it for her. For me personally, it would mean exploring the cause of my doubt. Like you just said, these people it's never worked for them before, which is even why we started all this with, what have you tried? What has failed? But also I can think at this point, it might help me to know that my doubt is creating more effects. It's also creating problems. It doesn't exist independently. It's not this thing that's just been there. There's some reason that it came in, and now it's also becoming the cause for something. And if I go back to my motivation, why am I doing this? Then I don't want my doubt to become the cause for me to not escape this prison. I think that's some of what it means, that, this doubt is even also, I think the reason of like meditating on the collection of aggregates then is like, this doubt is not all of me. When I have doubt, it feels enormous. And kind of like putting it in its place and knowing it's much smaller would help me. Anybody else?
I have something. A couple things. One is doing that or you don't even have to do the meditation. You can just think about how I'm not the same person as I was, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, even last week. And so when people say, oh, I can't do this, I've never been able to do this. Well, maybe up until now, you haven't been able to, but that could change.
Right.
So again, there's that impermanence. And then there was something else and I forgot what it was.
I think also, this isn't listed, so this is just me speaking, but, the doubt, all of these obstacles are trying to do something. Either they're trying to get in the way and be an obstacle, or I would imagine that doubt might also be trying to protect me from failure. Oh, I'm not out of the prison yet. It's keeping me back from trying to get out. And I don't know how to describe it, but, because it is so hard to get out. Let's say that's my goal, to get out of prison. It's so hard. Even if you're doing it the right way, even if you're not like scaling the wall. Some of the women I know had a lot of time in front of them. And you don't really see the progress. That they were making huge progress in lots of ways, but they don't see it. And so I think that the doubt can creep up. But I think this is doubt about a lot of things. I would also think that, so another term for doubt, it depends if it's doubt like I need more answers before I can do this. That's positive doubt. But negative doubt is also laziness. And so, that was an interesting thing for me to learn in Buddhism, that laziness isn't just the way that we think of laziness. It's like, oh, I'm just so. It's really like, I can't do this. I'm not getting anywhere. That's also a kind of laziness because it keeps you from even trying. And so I think recognizing that, like, oh, that's what's going on. It's not really this problem that I see. It's really that I'm scared of trying, or I'm scared of failing, or it seems so huge. Then you can give yourself a little break. Like, oh, you have some compassion for yourself. It is hard. All right. Time is flying by. Was there anybody else who wanted to say anything? Yeah.
I love this little obstacles and antidotes thing.
Oh,
That's
good.
really nice. So one, you said, I don't remember what you said. I wrote down craving. And then the antidote is to kind of contemplate the disadvantages.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
I know it's not.
If I want some cake, I want some cake. But I think, and their impermanence is said a lot, but I was curious kind of what the take is on like insignificance. Like I find great comfort in the realization that I really don't matter. And so I always kind of I went to Jordan and I was in Petra, and that's like, 40,000 plus years ago, where that is a permanent thing, but it just reminds you how you're just, the insignificant speck of dust, which I find quite comforting. So I don't know, that's kind of always my antidote to most of these human desires of just like,
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal.
Don't
You're
sweat
not
it.
that special.
Yeah. Well, so we are trying to reduce our specialness, and at the same time, recognizing that you really matter for your escape. That you really matter. And there's all these other beings around you that you just got that hit of. It's kind of overwhelming, like to stand up and look at the Milky Way, right? That feeling of like, wow. So I like that could be an antidote. I like that all the antidotes are like the opposite. So it's always an interesting thing. It's like, oh, let me just try the opposite. So I'm having doubt. Oh, let me try faith. What do I have faith in? And what if I did have faith? What would that be like? You could just ask yourself, what if? Yeah. So what if I'm craving this cake? What if? There'll be a time when I'll eat it. So then I'll be full. Okay. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing to keep thinking about all week. You're like, what are some, I remember reading like, oh, the antidote to, anger is love. And I was like, oh, is that like, just like that? But it is also applying more of the opposite. So I think a lot of medicine works that way. And why can't we try this with, our mental medicine? All right, so I want to do a little analytical meditation. We did one last week, and it's hard to really label it analytical. I walk you through it, but you're contemplating something. And I want Linda to share what you were telling me about last week when you were meditating on the impermanence of an idea, because then when you told me what you kind of realized through it, that's what I wanted you to get to that point and share with people, because it was more than just an intellectual exercise. It kind of like seeped through your whole being.
In regards to my mom?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were doing a meditation where we were thinking about, did we go backwards first?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I had you pick an idea or a concept or something and go backwards in time and see its regression.
Right. And then go forward in time. Yeah. And so the thing that I picked to contemplate was my relationship with my mother. And we have just finished living together for 4 years, and she just moved into a senior living community, just to give you a little background. So, when I went back and, she's my mom and she raised me and, took care of me and all that stuff. But then coming forward, we had a more tenuous relationship, and then we were living together, and that was really challenging. And, it was like a daily lesson in patience and things like that. And so then it was like, and so then think about in 2 years, what that relationship is going to be. And then what about in 5 years? And then whatever, I can't remember how far in the distance we went. And, if things play out the way you think they would, she would pass away before I do, although that's not always the case. But that's what I was thinking about, like, oh, and then, she's going to die. And what arose that was kind of surprising was, I guess it wasn't surprising, but was, oh, I am going to regret not being more loving and more patient and, more present for her in this later part of her life.
Yeah, that you would miss her. And
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you said, oh, it's not a surprise, but that was the intellectual part, but you felt it, and that kind of shifted something. And that's what analytical meditation does, is because you're in it, like you're in this movie that we're talking through, and you're going through and having different experiences. So that's why we're doing it. All right, and so some of you have probably done this meditation, so if so, challenge yourself to do it a little with different, you'll see what I'm going to do, and so you'll do it maybe with different images or ideas, or just challenge yourself in whatever way feels good to you. All right, so get into your posture, your meditation posture, and refresh your intention of why you're doing this. And, stretch whatever you need to stretch. Get your body into a comfortable position for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, take several deep breaths and make sure you're relaxed and alert. Now imagine that there are 3 chairs in front of you, and a close friend of yours comes and sits in one of those chairs. And just notice how you feel. This is someone you really love, who's dear to you. Feel in your body your warmth, your connection. Another person comes and sits in the middle chair, and they're a stranger, someone you have not met before. And notice your response, your feelings. And then someone comes who at this point in time you're very uncomfortable around, someone you really dislike. And look at them and notice how you feel, what thoughts arise, where in your body you feel that feeling. And then check your experience with your friend. They were once a stranger, or maybe someone you didn't like. Is it possible this friend could do or say something that would make them lose their position as your friend? What has happened between you all to make you friends? What events, what have they said and done? Just imagine them doing or saying something where they would lose that position as your friend. And now look at the person who you've labeled your enemy or someone you don't like. And why is it appropriate that they have that label? Have they always been someone who you felt this way towards? What things have transpired? Can you imagine that could change? Could they become your friend? What would they have to do or say to take that place? Has that happened with others in your experience? And then look at the stranger. How easy is it for that person to change into a friend or an enemy? What would happen for them to be in either of those categories? What were some of the things for you personally that would make them one or the other? Isn't it true that all of your current people in your circle of either friends or people you don't like began as strangers? Could they become strangers again? So then check, is there any real basis on which we depend for these distinctions? Is there a solid, constant base that allows us to only have warm feelings or hard feelings or indifference? Isn't it true that we can change the label we give to the people around us? That we could reasonably have even feelings for all. And is it true that all beings in the world fall into these categories? So there's no one to whom this meditation cannot be applied. And isn't it true that all of these beings want happiness and want to avoid suffering just like you? And if all beings have the capacity to be our friends, then is it possible to wish for the happiness of all those around us, not just our friends? Is it possible to have warm feelings for all? Isn't it the case that each individual is struggling with their own delusions and also has their own capacity to become enlightened? So then the question is, what attitude will bring us more happiness as we relate to all these people? And slowly open your eyes. How did that go? Any thoughts or comments to share?
Steve, there must be something about your meditations, because I had another aha moment.
Great, please share.
Okay, so this has never come up, and I've done this meditation a lot in, in classes and stuff. So, friend or loved one, easy, the person we have difficulty with, easy. But then when I was, putting a stranger in the chair, like, I was like, oh, it'll be, someone like me, mid-50s, mom kind of person, whatever. And then it was like, a white woman. And then I was like, no. So then I changed it. I'm like, oh, maybe, this person. And then it was like, oh, what about like a, big scary kind of gang person with tattoos all over his face. And then I was like, I'm already putting the stranger in these categories. And I was so I had to really stop and check myself. Like, I'm already prejudging the stranger. And so I kept the gang guy. And, I know people even here at Kadampa Center that have tattoos on their face, and they're awesome individuals. And, I was just, that kind of struck me. Like, I need to be more aware of my own prejudices that, because I don't think of myself as prejudiced, but then I was already putting these strangers in categories.
So even strangers aren't, completely neutral.
Right.
We don't have experience with them yet, but they're not neutral. We have, our brain definitely needs to like kind of categorize things, but we can't. That means we don't have to follow it. Right. It's wired to try to figure things out, but it can be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one was interesting too for me. Thinking about the difficult one, or one of my difficult ones, and I have no issue sharing loving kindness to my difficult one. Like, that can just like flow like honey. It's cool. But when I think of this person as, at least in this meditation, it was challenging and it was interesting to see my mind at work. Can this person change? No. Except when she dies and is reborn into another life. Like, that was literally what came up. And just like was so much self-righteous assurity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was interesting for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like I can give the loving kindness.
Right.
Like, I think I've worked to that piece.
Uh-huh.
But there is still like this element of like major judgment.
Yeah.
And almost like a hierarchical dynamic that I have taken with this individual at a soul level. And yeah, that was good for me to see, do you know? Because like while I can have free flow of loving kindness, I'm still having like a lot of interference when it comes to neutrality.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, what's interesting about that is, it's remarkable though that what you could do is see, well, there, you know, things are not static forever and ever and ever, that there is other lives and this person, so I'll send them all the best because they're not just this one thing. Right, that's not.
But who am I to say? Exactly. And also, who am I to say that in this lifetime, this soul cannot go into a different phase?
Sure, absolutely.
That's my work right there.
Yeah.
It was good to pinpoint it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, cool. Thanks.
I think I had the opposite in my life a lot, that I expect everybody to be able to change remarkably with just, I mean, because I see the potential, like I'm talking not Buddhist potential, but just in my own personal life, I could see with certain family members that they're so close to being able to be nice to me, you know? So I would just kind of hang in there and hang in there and hang in there. And then I finally heard somebody say, you know what, not to me personally, they were talking about this in general, that you might have a lot of compassion and you might be able to see their potential. It doesn't mean that that's going to ripen in this lifetime. It may be 30 lifetimes down the road, so you don't have to put yourself in harm's way just because you can see this. You still have to protect yourself. Yeah.
That's so interesting because like it's just been in this past half a year that I've really taken the approach of releasing some people from some of my family members from my life and working internally on my relationship with them rather than external through like a physical 3D material reality. Just working more at the soul level, heart to heart at the soul level, and just noticing like what's left and where am I still bumped and and releasing, but like also knowing that I have still work to do.
Right, releasing, sending all that loving kindness, but you know, this thing that I am attached to, that I think I want, may not, even though I can see the potential for it. So I think this exercise is good in a way that it shows us like, oh, I mean, this is the way it first helped me on this one level. It was like to see how it's all kind of centered around me. Like if they said these things and did these things, then they would be my friend. If they said these things and did these things, then they would not be my friend. So I can see how problematic that is. But I also can see how a person, me, but other people, can stay in something too long because of compassion and seeing potential. The wisdom part would say, maybe that's not going to happen in this life. So people still do bad things, you know, just because we talk about impermanence and emptiness and these categories can shift. It doesn't mean that people aren't doing bad things, but it just means that these labels aren't hard and fast forever and ever. And one other thing I wanted to say, I love this part when it was like, you know, possible to see other people having their own delusions, and it's kind of a tangent, but I was taking care of my mom for 6 years. She had vascular dementia, and I remember one day, she wasn't that far, I mean, it was bad, well, it was all bad, but I remember, because the doctor had said, well, what's dementia? It's just confusion. And he was not being helpful, because I was like, is this dementia? And it had all these MRIs and stuff, but he just didn't like to use the word, which wasn't helpful to me. And he goes, what is it anyway? It's just confusion. So then there's one day when she was very confused, I thought, oh, it's just confusion. Oh, we all have dementia. Unless we're enlightened, we actually all have dementia of one kind or another. This is hers. Hers is very obvious. And here's mine, and this is my boss's. And it just really helped me to think of everybody has confusion, you know? Yeah. Okay. Thanks for doing that. I thought I always learn something from this exercise. Any other questions or thoughts or? Okay. Yeah.
So as was going through it, like, so this person that I identified as friend, right, was someone who was a friend, and as you shared, sometimes that can change,
Yeah.
And it did, because some very hurtful things were said that could not be repaired, at least.
Right. It can't be taken back.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, wow, I never thought that you had those types of thoughts, right? And so maybe I don't know you as well as I thought that I did, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I can see where that can change. Whereas the person that I had in the stranger chair, a lot like Linda shared, is kind of like there was already some form of preconceived idea based on the clothes that they were wearing or the aura that they generated to me, right? So they could go either way,
Right.
because like they could, they could be like leading towards the friend side of things,
Right.
and then open their mouth, and it just changes, right?
Right. Right.
And then the person that I had in the chair as an enemy was someone that, that I definitely would consider enemy, right? But then I try to look at things from their perspective, because what do I really know about them and how they were raised, and the different conditions that they were in.
Right.
And then what I remember, like early on as I was studying Buddhism, I read, and I know I'm not going to pronounce the name right, but it's Japanese, Bodhisattva, Kshittgr, I can't pronounce it, but who was a Bodhisattva who flew through the airs with a staff and would remove hell beings from different hills. And so when I look at those individuals, I just think of them as being like stuck in some form of hell realm.
Yeah.
And because I can also go into that realm.
Yeah, we all have dimensions.
So if I'm labeling them as enemy, obviously I'm not seeing some good in them.
Right.
And what I know is there is intrinsic good in all.
Right.
Right. So I'm already not giving them the chance to get out. So I try to see myself when I'm dealing with them as being able to reach into the realms of hell and hopefully pull them out of that.
Yeah.
So
Great. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we're going to start winding up here, and I just want to.
Ben, go ahead and unmute and share what you have.
Sorry, last minute thing. It was interesting that I found that towards the end when you said that all beings, all three of these individuals, just want to be loved, just want to feel safe. I started really empathizing with all three of them, and I kind of saw myself in all of them. And then I started thinking, I have been in all three of those chairs to somebody. Somebody sees me in one of these chairs. Mass majority of people on this planet probably put me in the stranger chair, but there's a group of people who'd put me in the friend chair. There's some people who'd put me in the enemy chair. So the more I kind of saw that each of these people could just as easily be me, it made it easier to recognize that it is really just perspective, and it's impermanent, and people have bad days, good days. And if I can have compassion for myself, then I can have compassion for each of these three people, and it could change like that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, seeing that we're also in all those different chairs for other people. Yeah. We're going to close with just a 5-minute meditation and then do a dedication. And when we do the dedication, what we're doing is we just spent energy sharing with each other, getting ourselves here on a Monday, thinking about this topic, and it created something, cause and effect. It's created what in Buddhism would say merit. And so you're going to dedicate this to ripen in whatever way that you want. So there may be somebody you have in mind, but also all the goals that you started this with. Dedicate that so that those goals will ripen quickly. The other thing that I remember really helped me that Geshe-la was saying is, I think we've had a lot of conversations about kind of the Western mind versus what he's more familiar with. And he was really asking me a lot about why do all the Westerners talk a lot about self-love and self-compassion? Isn't that obvious? And I was like, no, it's not obvious to us. But even, any of the things that we're doing, we should be involved, including ourselves. And I remember talking to him, he says, the problem is you're not including yourself. When we say, may all beings have happiness, you're in there, that you have to remember that that's what you're also wishing for. And so I just wanted to mention that. And when we do this Shantideva's prayer, you remember you're in there, you're in there. You're in the chair. Okay, so just check your posture quickly and your motivation. Just take several deep breaths. And spend a minute rejoicing in your efforts, your actions, your attention and attempts and all of that you put into this class tonight. And just for 5 minutes, if you can meditate on the nature of your mind, the nature of mind. Can you feel the energy of your own mind? Like as I visualize like an ocean, I can feel this energy of my own thoughts, my own mind is vast and powerful. And I can feel the thoughts ready to rise up like a wave. When I bring my attention to that wave, it settles back down into this powerful ocean. And I can rest between those waves. Okay, now Linda's going to lead us through Shantideva's prayer as a perfect dedication of this collective merit we have created.
It's page 246 if you want to follow along. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may these never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world.
Next week is our last class. We're going to talk a little bit more about calm abiding meditation, and if you have an object that you are thinking of using as a focus for that meditation, feel free to bring it, and we'll do a little bit of calm abiding meditation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Steve. We'll see everyone next week. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you, Steve.